Good Tuesday afternoon, everybody. How is it going? Given that it is Tuesday, we're going to take a look at some of our young players, see how they're doing this year, see how they did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and try to evaluate where this team is headed in the future. Because obviously, while the present is pretty good, we hope that the future is even better. And it was a mixed bag this last weekend. We did see some young players play effectively, play well, make plays, do positive things, but we also saw some maybe take a little bit of a step back. So let's start with the good stuff because the offensive line was definitely the bright spot of that game. In fact, if you look at it, Pro Football Focus gave our entire offensive line pretty much, except maybe Austin Blythe, really strong grades. Now, I will say I have to question that a little bit, particularly how well we were graded as a run blocking offensive line, given the fact that, we had like no rushing yards. Ken Walker literally averaged less than 2 yards a carry. We had, I think, 40 rushing yards as a team. Maybe not even. Maybe it was 39. So, unless Ken Walker just had the worst game of any running back since Trent Richardson, then I don't know if I totally buy that, particularly from the interior offensive line. Like Phil Haynes was graded excellently. I believe Damian Lewis was graded excellently as well. I have to wonder about that a little bit because we couldn't run. But I will say this, they graded the tackles, who are the relevant players for this video, very well. And that seems well deserved to me because you got Charles Cross and Abe Lucas. Both their ratings went up a couple points. We are now approaching Abe Lucas being a just flat good player, right? Like if 60 is like the point where you're actually like becoming a net positive, Abe Lucas is closing in on 70. And if he gets at 70, you're just genuinely a good NFL player. And Cross is not far behind. He also got a boost in his PFF grade. And the main reason why is that neither allowed any quarterback pressures this week, according to PFF. Cross did not allow a sack or pressure, and neither did Lucas. Now, Cross's run block grade went up a few points, which I wonder how they determined that, to be perfectly honest, because we couldn't run the ball at all. I believe Abe Lucas's was stagnant, but despite my question marks about that, I will say it seems like both guys played quite well. Neither guy picked up a penalty. So the upshot of that loss to Tampa Bay was definitely the building studs we have on the left and right side of that offensive line. So they did great in pass protection at the very minimum. Maybe they did okay as run blockers too. I don't know if I buy it. Curhan and Forsyth did not play, so that takes us to the linebackers. Mafe had a relatively quiet game. He made, I think, one tackle. Didn't add anything as a pass rusher. Nobody really rushed the passer well against the Bucks. Let's be real here. Barely touched Brady. PFF grade fell below 60, but overall, I still appreciate his presence. I still think he's doing some pretty good things out there. It's definitely nice. It's been nice having him, right? Because we have some deficiencies with our starting edge rushers, or the guys who were supposed to be our starting edge rushers. Mafe has done a good job of filling in the gaps, but definitely not his best game. Definitely not a game where he made a big impact. Excuse me. Onujiogu did not play. I believe he was inactive. And Vi Jones was active, but he only played on special teams. So didn't make any plays on special teams. But I do want to say shout out to Vi Jones. He's a guy who I'm definitely interested in. Definitely going to keep an eye on to see if he can get active and maybe even play a little on defense at some point this year. So welcome to the NFL, Vi Jones. Okay, so that gets us to the offensive skill players. Ken Walker did not have his best game. His grade fell a little bit. He was completely unproductive as a runner. I will say, silver lining, upshot, little bit of a, trying to find the positive here. Best game of his career as a pass catcher. He caught, what was it, 6 passes for 55 yards? Maybe it was 5 passes. Either way, very productive as a pass catcher, made some genuine plays out there. And that is a part of his game that we're still not 100% sure about, right? Because Ken Walker did not do that in college, but he did it in training camp. So the general narrative around Ken Walker was he can do it, he just didn't get asked to do it at Michigan State. Well, before this game, we hadn't really seen it in a regular season game, but now we have. If he can be a prolific pass catcher, then he is basically a complete back at that point. The only thing left would be blocking. And blocking, look, he's going to be an every down back. You don't necessarily want him to be out there in obvious blocking situations, right? You do want to have a third down back who can go out there and throw those blocks. So I don't look at that and go, that's any kind of a deal breaker. You need to have other running backs on your team that can block. Right now we do with Travis Homer, and to a certain extent I would even say DJ Dallas is a good blocker. But we'll see if Ken Walker develops at least the ability to block. And if he does, then he's a complete back, the likes of which, I mean, at that point you're comparing him to like a Clinton Portis type, where he can just do pretty much everything. Derek Young, his grade went up fractionally. He only played a few snaps. This is getting kind of spooky, by the way. Derek Young has played not a lot of snaps, but he's played some snaps and he has yet to be targeted. In fact, let's go take a look at how many snaps Derek Young has played so far this year. 48. He's been on the field for 48 offensive snaps. He has not been targeted once. Every time he's on the field, it seems like we run the ball in fairness, and there's probably a reason for that. Derek Young is probably more of a blocker at this point in his career than he is anything else. But yeah, that's I'd like to see him get a target at some point just for fun. But yeah, D. Eskridge basically didn't play because he got hurt. I don't even remember how he got hurt, but he didn't play. And at this point, I think that I think it's time to cut bait on the D. Eskridge dream. I was hoping that he would at least find a way to become a reasonably productive offensive player for the Seahawks, but at this point, at best, I'm hoping he can maybe make a special teams contribution, but something's just not right. Something's just not working. And at this point, my expectation is basically even with the floor. Well, not even the floor, the bottom of the sea. Defensive back, that's an area where, even though there were some positives, we took a little bit of a step back this week. Kobe Bryant got picked on a good amount. Of all the defensive backs, he was probably the guy that Brady targeted the most, which that makes sense, right? He's kind of playing out of position, but he gave up some stuff in coverage. His QBR against went up a little bit. He didn't make any real plays that I can remember. His grade dropped by 2.5 points. And I mean, I still believe that Kobe's going to be a good player in the NFL. And I think some people are being a little harsh with him right now, given these circumstances. Remember, it's hard to play defensive back when you don't get pressure on the quarterback, and we did not. But yeah, so he's had 2 kind of rough games in a row now. Tariq Woolen made an awesome play, made an interception, his 5th of the year. And I think generally he played fairly well, but he did give up some stuff in coverage. I think he gave up that touchdown, the second touchdown that Brady threw, and he gave up at least one other significant reception that I remember. So even though he made the red zone interception, his PFF grade fell, and his QBR against actually went way up to the 70s now. So still having a really good rookie year, still playing really well, still very, very promising. This is not a surprise, but Woolen, not his best game. Let's just leave it at that. And like that big reception he gave up to I think it was Chris Godwin. He had pretty good coverage is the thing, right? Like I can't be that mad about that. Like he's there. The throw is just there, and the receiver makes the play. And Joey Blunt did make 1 tackle on special teams, so he continues to contribute in that way. And that's it for your rookies and sophomores. I will see you guys later on today. Might make another video. We'll probably go live on Twitch for a couple hours, and I'm going live on the Hawks Nest channel in a few hours here to talk about this Bucks game. So hope I will see you guys there. And tantalizing little preview here, Trey Brown going to be back next game. We'll start to see what he can do. And if you look at it, even though he is fighting in there, and it's nice to have him out there, there is a potential for him to take Kobe Bryant's job. Because Kobe's struggled 2 games in a row now. Like I said, the nickel position doesn't really fit his skill set. You look at Trey Brown and you go, that's a little bit more of a nickel corner maybe. Even though we know that Trey Brown played outside at Oklahoma, that's a possibility too. So definitely definitely keep tabs on the cornerback battle here, because I think that is the area where Trey Brown can help this team the most right now. Woolen and Jackson are playing well enough to where I don't see any benefit to benching them for Trey Brown. But Kobe, maybe. So we'll see where that goes. Next game, obviously, we've got a bye week this week. We're going to have a lot to talk about where this team is going and where this team is could improve, where this team has exceeded expectations. But Trey Brown's return in the second half of the year, that could mean something. So keep an eye out. See you guys later.